Hi everyone, welcome back to Visually Hidden Selects. I'm Peter O'Brien, and today I would like to talk to you about The Long Good Friday from 1980, directed by John Mackenzie and written by Barry Keefe. This is a quintessential British gangster film, of which all the following gangster films are derived. This film is one part mystery, one part political thriller, one part gangster, and one part drama. There's just a whole lot going on in this film. And one of the things that I love about it is that it doesn't spoon feed the audience, and I really appreciate that. It jumps right in and you just have to keep up with it, because as the story unfolds, the main character is trying to figure out this mystery about why he's under attack, what's causing all these problems for him, what is disrupting this day for him, which just happens to be Good Friday, which is why the film is The Long Good Friday. The other thing that's really great about this film is just it's very authentic, and part of that is because it was filmed primarily on location. They did not film any of this movie in a studio. They did build some sets and they dressed some locations to be different settings, but it is 100% on location. They did not set a foot in a film studio or build any sets in that regard where it was a controlled environment. So it has a very authentic look to it in that all of the locations are practical locations. When they go into an apartment, it's a real apartment. When they go into the boat, it's really on that boat. It was originally produced by a company called ITC, and after they saw the finished film, they felt the film was a little too controversial in its political themes, and they were going to scrap the entire production and its theatrical prospects and just send it to the United States as a television movie. When you do watch this film, you'll notice that the very first thing you see is the logo for Handmade Films. Handmade Films is a small independent production company in England that was founded by George Harrison. Yes, that George Harrison from the Beatles. He was really good friends with the guys from Monty Python, and when they ran into trouble with The Life of Brian, he came to their aid and created Handmade Films to fund that film. The Long Good Friday came along, and Bob Hoskins, the star of the film, he had a run-in with Eric Idle from Monty Python, and he put him in touch with Handmade Films, and Handmade Films actually wound up buying the film from ITC, who did not want to release it, and they put it out, and the rest is history. The film was very well received by critics and audiences alike, and it did very well both in its native England as well as in the United States. Funny enough, though, it's not incredibly well known. It's kind of a forgotten gem as well. I first became aware of this film through my father. We had it taped from television, and I had never watched it for a long time, but he would mention it every so often. It was released on Laserdisc through the Criterion Collection, and then it was one of their early releases on DVD, which went out of print almost immediately. So it was very hard to come by for a long time unless you had a copy or had access to a copy either through a rental or a friend or something like that. You couldn't just go to the video store and pick up a copy the way you could Terminator 2, which was always in stock, or Star Wars or anything like that. This film was not accessible for a good long time. It instantly clicked with me, and I saw the influence of this film going backwards. Like every Guy Ritchie film has a root in The Long Good Friday. Layer Cake, which is another British gangster movie starring Daniel Craig, has a root in The Long Good Friday. It is astounding that not more people are aware of this film, because the story is so tightly knit and it does unfold so well. It does have a very high rewatchable factor. I personally watch it every Good Friday. It's one of my favorite holiday movies. The film stars Bob Hoskins as Harold Shand and Helen Mirren as Victoria, his business partner, lover, companion, and they are both phenomenal in this film. Bob Hoskins speaks with a very strong Cockney accent. it can be a little difficult for some people with an untrained ear to pick up everything he's saying, as well as all of the slang that he is using throughout the film. It's not as strong or as inhibiting as maybe the slang in A Clockwork Orange, but it could be along those lines for some viewers. Again, it was 1980. This was Bob Hoskins, not his first film, but his first leading role, and it was really his breakout film. Helen Mirren had been doing a lot of stage and BBC productions up to this point, so this is very early in her career. For me, it was kind of exciting to see her at this point in her career, knowing what was ahead of her, but she just does a fantastic job in this film. She is not your typical weak-willed background female character. She is right in there with Bob Hoskins as his equal throughout the film, and that was something that came about during production. She agreed to do the movie provided her character received more development. So there were a number of times while they were filming, they would rework scenes, or she would come in with input about her character, and then it was accepted by the crew and the director. In addition to Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren as the stars, this film has a fantastic supporting cast of a few familiar faces early in their career, as well as a few familiar faces just passing through their career. There are a lot of great British character actors in here, like P.H. Moriarty, who plays Razors. Alan Ford, he went on to star in Guy Ritchie's film Snatch as Bricktop. Here he is, just in the background, playing a gangster. There's one scene in particular where Bob Hoskins kind of calls all of his men together, and there's a great panning dolly shot around the room, and part of them are just background character actors. The other part of them are actual London gangsters who were technical advisors in this film, which again just adds to the authenticity, adds to the performance of Bob Hoskins, who received lots of praise from these men about his portrayal in the film. Another familiar face here is Paul Freeman, who 1 year later went on to co-star in Raiders of the Lost Ark as the villain Belloc. Here he is playing Bob Hoskins' best friend Colin, who, while he doesn't have a large part, has a significant part and is basically the catalyst for this entire adventure and mystery. I think my favorite face that pops up in this movie, though, has to be Pierce Brosnan. This is his first film, and it's a very memorable role, even though he only has one line of dialogue. The film has a very unique style. It has a very smart sophistication about it. You get a sense of this not only through the story, but also the production design, as well as the music. Francis Monkman composed the score for this film, and the music is something that really helps set it apart from other films. The theme that kicks in right at the very beginning, it just has this sense of class, sense of style, but it also has an energy to it, and it has a sophistication. It also has a little bit of danger, as well as an evocative nature that carries over throughout the rest of the film whenever these themes are introduced or come back around. I just love that it's not your typical gangster film. It doesn't even go out of its way to set itself apart, it just sets itself apart. Particularly the scene at the abattoir where he brings in all of the local crime bosses on the meat track where they bring in the cattle carcasses. He just strings them up and interrogates them as he's trying to find answers to his questions. This film it doesn't pull any punches, and it's very, very engaging and entertaining, both visually and narratively. So that's it for The Long Good Friday. Again, I highly recommend this film. It is one of my favorites, and as I said, it is a quintessential British gangster film, so if you like that genre, you will not be disappointed. We will be discussing this film at length on the Visually Hidden podcast, so be sure to tune into that. And until next time, see ya!